So if you would take your Bibles, turn to the book of 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter number 17. So I think that I did a pretty good job this week, but let's go ahead and take a guess of what we're talking about this morning. It should be pretty obvious. Judah knows the answer already. Yes. David and Goliath. We are going to be talking about David and Goliath. I think everybody can be pretty honest and say they love a good underdog story. They love a good story of somebody that, was doubted. Somebody they were like, you're never, ever going to make it. They came out with a movie recently. I think it's within the last couple of years, but it's about Kurt Warner and how he was just really, really an underdog going into the NFL. He played college, and then he went and worked at a Hy-Vee, which is a grocery store in Iowa. And so he went and worked at Hy-Vee for several years, and then finally made his way into the NFL. And it's like everybody I know that watched it, they're like, oh man, it's just such a great underdog story and everything. And people enjoy that. David and Goliath is one of those deals. David defeats Goliath. God gave victory over the giant Goliath because he trusted him. So, 1 Samuel chapter number 17 is where we're going to pick up the story here in just a second. But there's another story that I found that was very, very interesting. I like reading through some of the old war stories and reading through guys' testimonies about things that took place in war. And there's a story about this guy named Lachman Gurung. He was a Gurkha warrior from Nepal, and he fought with the British in World War II. He was nearly rejected because he was 4 feet 11 inches tall. He was left with 2 men to defend a hill. Like, this is how little we think of you. Just defend that hill. That's your job. And then 200 Japanese soldiers attacked that hill. They threw grenades, and successfully, him and these 3 men threw several grenades back, but one of them ended up going off, I'm presuming, as he was trying to throw it back, and he lost his hand and his right eye in doing so. And during that event, he also lost those other 2 soldiers that were with him. So now it's just this one guy, 4'11", this little guy. He's lost his right hand, he's lost his eye. He had a bolt-action rifle still with him, and for the next 2 days, he killed 31 soldiers and defended that hill by himself. I was like, people like a good underdog story. They're like, man, what a guy. He just defended that hill. That was great. David's that guy. 1 John 1, 8 and 9 has been our memory verse through this section. If we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. I can tell you what, not a day goes by that I don't think on those verses. They're very prominent in my life. That's something that I have. Every single Bible I think I own has those verses highlighted in them. It's something that's very key to the Christian life. I'm sure it's something that though David didn't have written down, that he used in his life as he continued to walk with the Lord. So let's get into our story today. 1 Samuel chapter 17, starting in verse 4. It says, and there went out a champion of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. And he had an helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail. And the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. This dude was just an absolute beast of a man. And I was going to come in here ahead of time and like tape off where his height would be on the wall so you can get an idea. There's a guy at the church in Crookston who actually, based off of the things that are listed here, he kind of figured out this is about what Goliath's sword would have looked like. And I've held it. And it's like, it is just this massive 2-handed sword. Like, you would think anybody trying to wield this thing is just absolutely crazy. And for Goliath, it just would have been like, this is my sword. This is what I would have used. He was 9 feet 9 inches tall, just absolute ridiculously tall person. I think I as I look around the room, there's a couple of guys that are probably between 6 and 6'2", maybe a little over. And this guy was over 3 feet. I wasn't talking about you, Kelby. So this guy was 9'9" so that he would have been over 3 feet taller. When you think about the verse that we read about Saul, when it said, and Saul was head and shoulders taller than anybody else. Well, this is an extreme, way more than head and shoulders. It's just a big, big man. His coat that he was wearing, I don't know about you, but I enjoy the fact that I have a really nice Carhartt coat that I wear during the winter, and it's a little heavier, and I enjoy the fact that it's heavier. But they're getting to the point with technology where like they've got coats that are much lighter, and you can put on that coat and you can stay just as warm. I've got a Columbia jacket that's probably as thick as my suit coat, and I'll wear it right up until the point that it gets really, really cold, and then I got to put on my really winter coat. But his coat that he was wearing was 125 pounds. This beast of a man is walking around carrying an extra 125 pounds in this thing that he's wearing. That doesn't include his helmet. We were watching a movie the other day, me and the boys, and there's this gal in the movie, and she's got this just like a humongous helmet on, and she's not a very big person. And I was thinking about, like, man, that would stink to have this big helmet on. Like, my neck would just be killing me by the end of the day. He had a super heavy coat on. That weight didn't include the helmet that he was wearing. And I mean, I think about the weight that was bearing down on him of all this armor that he had. Verses 6 and 7 say this, and he had greaves of brass upon his legs, and a target of brass between his shoulders. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron, and one bearing a shield went before him. If you can imagine a basketball hoop, that's how tall his spear was. He had a spear that was 10 feet tall, and he's just standing there holding this spear. The head on the spear weighed 16 pounds. It's like, just by inertia alone, I don't care if the thing's sharp. If he throws that thing at somebody, like, you're dead. You're dying just because of the inertia of the weight that would carry. That's intimidating to think about, like this. And then it says, and then there was a guy standing in front of him with a shield. Like, this dude was a warrior. He was intimidating to anybody that would look at him on the field. You know, we give the Israelites a hard time sometimes because they went through the promised land. You know, the 12 spies went in, and they're like, there's giants in the land. This is what they were talking about. You know, this is exactly what they were talking about. There's guys that are just these huge behemoth men that what are we going to do against them? There's nothing I can do. Cue the story about David. Verses 8 and 9 say this, and he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel and said unto them, why are ye come out to set your battle in array? Am not I a Philistine, and ye servants to Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he be able to fight with me and to kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then shall ye be our servants and serve us. So Goliath walks out, and he proverbially throws down a gauntlet, like, here's your challenge. One of your men will come out and fight, against me. And if I win, you guys have to surrender and be our servants. But if you win, we'll surrender and be your servants. Some of the thought behind this is that they would use this kind of challenge in different places, but it's thought that the armies were probably pretty comparable. If they had just taken the armies and sent out the armies, you know, you look at Goliath and you're like, man, that is just a huge man. He is intimidating. Well, the whole army wasn't Goliath's. The whole army was full of just other men. So if you just took the two armies and compared them next to each other, well, there's a possibility that they were comparable, that they would go to war, and it'd be a pretty even fight, if you could put it that way. But as they come out, they're like, well, if we just have Goliath challenge one of their men and have him come out, well, there's not going to be any casualties on our side. And so we could just have Goliath go out and just kick somebody's butt and then be over with it. And I think a lot of the men in the army probably would have been like, yeah, Goliath's a giant. Let him go handle this. Like, why do we have to do that? Kicking back in a lawn chair, watching Goliath go out there and just take care of one of them. Especially when you introduce the thought that, like, the average height of a Jewish man is like 5'5", somewhere around that. And I compare that to the fact that, like, my wife's 5'3". And so I'm like, she'd be, pretty close to average height in Israel. And so I think about these men really 5'5", and there's this 9'9" guy standing out there like, come out here, let me show you a thing or two. Look at verses 15 and 16. It says, but David went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. And the Philistines drew near morning and evening and presented himself 40 days. Now, David would still be a young man in this story, and so he wouldn't have been allowed to be just in the army. It's his 3 older brothers out of the 8 that were in the army at this point. So there's people that think that he was, maybe 15 years old, so somewhere around that age. And so according to the law of Moses, he wasn't allowed to be in the army. So during this time, he gets sent back home, and so he's back home with his sheep. He's out taking care of the sheep and just watching out after them. Maybe, I mentioned last week, maybe he's just sitting out there on a rock playing his harp a little bit and just watching over his sheep, or any of those things. He had been playing harp for for Saul. He had been Saul's armor bearer. But a time came where apparently the threat was too big, and he said, David, go home. Go back to your dad, go back to your family. The threat is too big. And so he sent him back home. And so for several days, David's just at home, taking care of the sheep, something he's done for forever. Men, I don't know about you, but when I fall into a routine of something that I've done so many times that I'll describe it this way to my wife, that it's really nice to get to a point where I can just shut my brain off for a while. I'm like, I've done this so many times, I don't really even have to think about it. I can just do the routine thing, and it's just nice, and it's relaxing for me. And so I wonder if David was that way, that he didn't go out, and he's like, I've taken care of these sheep for years. And so he got to go out there and just shut his brain off for a little while and relax for a little while and not have to worry about anything. Meanwhile, it says for 40 days, Goliath came out and threatened the Israelites. Goliath came out and said, who's going to come out here and fight me? Who's going to come out here and do battle against me? Who's going to come out here? And so these days continue passing on, and Goliath is standing there waiting. I just envision this huge man standing there waiting, growing impatient. What's taking so long? Where's your champion? Are you going to send somebody out to fight me or not? Verse 22 and 23 say, and David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage and ran unto the army and came and saluted his brethren. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words, and David heard them. During this period of time, Jesse would have begun to get worried about his other sons that are out there. And you wouldn't think in modern ways. For example, there's a video series that I watched that was studying one of the nuclear submarines, and it went through and it was talking about all the different things. But one of them that it did was a close-up video of how they feed everybody on that ship. And so they went through all the food that they have, and they're like, well, he was allowed to apparently release the fact that he's like, we are required to keep at least minimum 3 months rations on a submarine just to make sure that we have enough to feed everybody. That wasn't the case here. There were men that would go out and fight, and it's not like they brought a chef with them. They don't got Cookie in the back, making soup for everybody or something. It's like they had to take care of themselves in a sense. And so Jesse becomes worried that his sons have been out for too long. And David, I need you to take some cheese and some bread and some different, you put it all in this wagon and go find them. Take food to your brothers. And so he goes up there, and he's got this different things that he brought with him. And ironically enough, as he gets there, this Philistine champion comes out, and he starts in, just like he did every other day for the last 40 days. And he said, who's going to come out and fight me? Who's going to come out? And, is your God going to take care of you? And I just imagine this belligerent man standing out there talking poorly about God. And it seems as though it didn't really bother anybody. They were too terrified of who Goliath was that they're like, I'm not gonna say anything poorly. I think of people today that are afraid to say something or correct somebody on something scripturally because of who they were. Who's like, oh man, this is a really famous person. Oh man, this is a leader in town, or this is a this, or this is a that. I'm like, I don't care. I've given you guys the example before. I'm like, I don't care who it is. If you're standing in front of me and you take God's name in vain, I'm going to correct you because that's my God. And I look at David, and so I think about this man that's just out there profaning the name of God. Do you guys really have a warrior? Like, what's going to take place? Like, I'm getting impatient. So David overhears all of this. Look at verse 25 and 26. It says, and the man of Israel said, have ye seen this man that has come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him, and were with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. Notice what David says. And David spake to the man that stood by him, saying, what shall be done to the man that killeth the Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? So he asks a question there, and it's almost like, what are all these rewards that you're talking about? It's like, somebody needs to go teach that guy a lesson, because he's defying the armies of the living God. Like, and that's where I kind of related it to that, like, he's profaning God's name as he's standing up there challenging us to come out and to fight him. That's enough. Like, go out there and kick this guy's butt. Like, why aren't you out there yet? Why hasn't somebody gone out there yet? And it's almost like it's gotten to the point where the bribe keeps getting bigger and bigger. Like, King Saul is sitting there in his tent. He's like, oh man, if somebody goes out there to kill this guy, I'll give him this. And then nothing happens for a week. And all right, well, if somebody goes out there, I'll give him this and this. Like, oh man, 10 days go by. Man, still nobody's gone out there? Man, if somebody goes out there, I'll give him this and this and this and this and this. And he's like, he's trying to bribe somebody to go out there to defeat this guy. And David comes up, little supposed 15-year-old David. He's like, that guy's defying the armies of the living God. Somebody needs to go shut him up. Somebody needs to wipe his face from the planet right now, because people aren't going to talk about God that way. And so you think about that. I love the picture that it gives of this kid that is sitting there. He's just like, how dare you talk about my God that way? And you've got this 9'9" of a man just being ornery and saying things he shouldn't. It's like, it's just this unfathomable situation where it's like, this is not making any sense at all. Look down to verse 32. It says, and David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with the Philistine. And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against the Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. So David continues to talk to others to the point that now he's talking with Saul. And he's like, it's almost like he walks up to Saul and he's like, don't worry about it. I'll go out there and take care of it. If I have any kid walk up to me to tell me they're going to go take care of something that I should be man enough to take care of, I mean, I'm just like, that's gonna hit me a little hard and be like, this kid is willing to go out there and do this. Why am I not? Why am I not man enough to go out there? And again, I brought up the whole, Saul was a head and shoulders taller. Saul was supposed to be the big man, and he wasn't willing to go out there. He wasn't willing to represent his army well. He wasn't willing to represent his God well. And so this little 15-year-old David comes in. If a full-grown man is 5'5", I don't know if he was just over 5 feet or close to 5'5", I don't know. But I just think of this young man that comes out and he's like, don't sweat it. I'll go out there. I'll go fight him. I'll take care of this Philistine. And Saul starts challenging him like, oh, you can't, because you're just a youth. This guy has been a warrior from his youth. I mean, you think about that height thing I was thinking about. I'm like, if a full-grown man for a Jewish person was 5'5", you might say, well, there are some men that they finish growing at 15 years old, but let's just say he was 5'5" or just under 5'5". Now imagine 15-year-old Goliath. If 9'9" is a full-grown giant, at 15 years old, it says he's been a man of war since his youth. Was he 7 foot? 7.5 foot? Was he, I mean, I think about people that I've seen in like the NBA and stuff that's like 7 foot something. I'm like, just huge, huge guys. If you ever see there's a video somewhere of Shaquille O'Neal, who I think is close to 7 foot or 7 foot, and he's holding a plastic water bottle. And it looks like he's holding one of those little water, but he's just like trying to drink out of it. And David comes up and he goes, don't worry about it, Saul. I'll go out there and take care of it. My God's big enough to take care of me. And if Saul wasn't already having problems, I wonder how much that hurt. This ruddy kid, this ruddy youth comes in and says, I'll go out there and fight him, Saul. I mean, that hit me in the pride a little bit, men, right? That's something that I should be willing to do, something that I really should have done already. 40 days had passed, and now Saul's going to start giving him some instruction to go out to take care of this. Look at verses 34 and 35. It says, and David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Now this is kind of a funny story, because most people just remember the details of David was watching the sheep, and he went out, and he slew a lion, and he slew a bear, which is pretty epic enough to start with. But if you really start thinking about the story, it's as if David goes out to rescue this sheep from this lion who had stolen the sheep away. And I had to look this up. I'm like, what was the value of a sheep? How much, was it really worth it to go after this sheep? They say a sheep was somewhere around 2.5 to 3 days' wage, so somewhere in that frame. And so I was like, yeah, that's 2.5 to 3 days' wage, which can be a lot, but at the same time, like, my life is worth a lot to me, I think. But as it tells this story, it's like David went out to go get this sheep, who's only worth 2.5, 3 days' wage, goes out, finds the lion. Apparently the sheep is still alive. Starts playing tug of war with this sheep, and this lion gets the sheep out of the lion's mouth. And the way I read it, it's almost as if I got my sheep back, I'm going to walk away. It's like, lion, I gave you a chance. I gave you a chance. But it says then, he where's it at? It says, and he arose against me. It's almost as if he's like, I got my sheep, like, I'm letting you off the hook. But he arose against me. So I grabbed him by the beard and I beat the tar out of him. I'm like, this kid is 15 years old. And I think about 15-year-olds today. That lion would have had 2 snacks. I mean, realistically, that lion would have eaten the little boy and he would have eaten the sheep. But it wasn't just a lion. It was a bear. Have you seen videos of a bear rising up against a man? Nope. I'm going the other direction. I'm just like, I'm not absolutely. But he says, I killed a lion because it stole a sheep from us. And I killed a bear because it stole a sheep from us. I was like, this is a kid. But he's a man's man as a kid already. And I just thought it was interesting. It's like now he's almost trying to give Saul his like, well, here's my resume. Here's why I think I can go out and fight Goliath. Because I killed a bear and because I killed a lion. And it's almost like, have you killed a bear? Did you kill a lion? Like, is any of you guys, have you guys killed a bear? Any of you guys killed a, like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to fight this guy. Look at verses 36 and 37. It says, thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing, this is his reasoning, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with you. I just think of Saul here now like this man that's sitting in his chair, almost slumped in his chair, to the point of, there's this kid that's got this gumption to go out there and fight this guy, and he gives me this resume of things that he's doing, and I can't help but think of Saul just, I don't know, just sitting there in his chair, He's like, all right, fine. All right, fine. Just go take care of him. Just go kill him. And Saul's sitting there in his own misery like, I should have done this already. And then he gets to the point where he's like, all right, I'm not willing to go, but I'll send this little kid out there. I'm just like, Saul, you bum. It just makes me think, I mean, David knows that God's on his side, but I just keep looking at Saul and I'm like, Saul, you bum. Theodore, sit up. Look at verses 38 and 39. It says, and Saul armed David with his armor, and he put on a helmet of brass upon his head. Also he armed him with a coat of mail. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go, for he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off him. So Saul gives his armor to David. Here, put on all this armor, go out, it's going to help you, And David's like, I've never fought in this armor before. It's also way bigger than can fit me. And so you're in this like oversized like football pads, just like this kid helmet on, like sitting up. He's like, what am I supposed to do with this? How am I supposed to go out there and fight this guy? And again, it shows so much trust that he had in God. His reasoning for going out there was to defend God. His reasoning to go out there the way that he was going to go out there is because my God will deliver me. My God is going to take care of me. And so even though he may, Saul probably had the best armor there was, it says, I'm just going to go anyways. I'm just going to go out like I am. Look at verses 40 and 41. Excuse me. It says, and he took his staff in his hand and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook and put them in the shepherd's bag, which he had, even a scrip, and his sling with his hand. And he drew near to the Philistine. And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. Don't you hate that when the back of your throat gets really dry? The stage is set. You now have David and Goliath standing out there, ready to face off against each other. Goliath has all of his armor. Goliath has a guy carrying a shield in front of him. So it's almost like he's already cheating. He's already got this guy there to help defend him as he's got his spear and his sword and everything. And David, I stopped at the brook to pick up a few small stones. I guess the only thing I can compare this to is going to a lake or something. I'm like, you got to find that right stone for skipping it across the lake. And so did David pause and take the time to pick out the perfect stone that fit into his sling? I mean, he would have known exactly what kind of rock he was looking for. He would have known what he needed to be able to throw this. Have you ever seen a video? There's some modern guys that have shown what this slingshot was. It wasn't like a little like Y stick with a, you're just, no, it's this leather strap that has a pocket in the middle of it that they would put this stone in. And I mean, they're whipping this thing. And I saw a video of a guy that threw one at a car hood and just about put the rock through the car hood. It was extremely impressive. This is what David walks up with. He's like, I've got a sling and I've got 5 smooth stones. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to fight against this Philistine. Verses 42 and 43 say this. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth and ruddy and of a fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, Am I a dog that thou comest at me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. Goliath is now ticked off, standing out there. Out of all the warriors that you could have sent out here for me to fight against, you sent a kid? You sent this ruddy youth out here to fight against me? And I think for a moment he's just really ticked off. He's like, you dare challenge me with he would have had his shepherd's staff with him still. I forgot that part. So he would have walked out there with a shepherd's staff and his sling and his stones, and it's like, what are you doing out here? And so for a moment there, I think Goliath was ticked off. And then he's just like, you know what? Fine. If that's who you're going to send out, I'm just going to get rid of him really quickly, and we're going to move on to this part where you serve us. Like, let's just get this over with. Let's just get this done. Look at verses 44 and 45. They say this, and the Philistines said to David, come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. Goliath threatens him, I'm going to go ahead and just make you as bird food. The animals are going to eat your flesh today. And David says, I'm come to you on behalf of the Lord God of the universe, pretty much. He's like, I come to you behalf of the God of the armies of Israel. That's whose authority I'm here on. And you can just see, like, I guess I just imagine this, my overactive imagination, and you see Goliath like, I'm quaking in my boots, like, just whoop-de-doo. Why don't you come over here and let's just go ahead and settle this. Goliath had all of the advantages that a man could look at and say, wow, like he was prepared. David, by man's view, would say, man, he doesn't have anything. But I tell you what, God plus nothing is always going to be a greater advantage than everything man can come up with. So David steps up with just him and God and these stones. It says, this day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee, and I will give the carcasses of the hosts of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. It makes me so convicted so many times to read through some of the things that David did way before he ever became king of Israel. And I just look at the faith that he had. I'm like, look at the trust that he had in God. That he walked out to battle this giant. And he's like, God's got my back. God's going to take care of this. I've got faith in the Lord. Like, he's going to do these things. And it just makes me feel like a terrible person. And then he goes out and threatens Goliath. He's like, I'm about to remove your skull from your shoulders. Like, you just give me just a minute here, and you are the one. I'm going to leave the Philistine bodies for the birds of the air to eat. Look at verses 48 and 49. It says, and it came to pass when the Philistines arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hasted and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag, and took thence a stone, and slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead. The stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. I think this is such an interesting set of events that take place that finally, the smack talk is done. And David did such a good job as talking smack to Goliath. And so it's to the point where we're like, all right, are we going to fight or are we just going to talk? And so David starts running towards him. And he took out his sling and he put a stone in his sling. And I just imagine this guy just slings this stone at Goliath. And what's interesting to me is it says that it sunk into his forehead and that he fell upon his face. Now, I don't know about you, but this is what's interesting to me. If I'm standing there and something hits me here, wouldn't you think, but it says that the stone sunk into his forehead and he fell on his face. I don't know how fast you can throw a stone. I don't know how hard you'd have to throw a stone to sink it into somebody's forehead. But I can't help but think God in his providences, just as that stone was hitting Goliath's forehead, that he was like, and just Goliath went over. Just like, really? Tough guy? How tough are you now? I don't know. Maybe that's just my imagination getting the best of me. But you see, that it's like, all right, the talk is done. The battle's on, and the battle was over like that. It didn't take long for this stone to sink into his head, and Goliath's gone. Goliath had the cutting edge of tools. And David's like, I got a rock that I just picked up in that creek over there, and I'm going to throw this at your head, and you're going to die. And so he trusted in God, and God provided. Look at verses 50 and 51. It says, so David prevailed over the Philistines with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistines and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine, and took his sword, and drew it out of the sheath thereof, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. Like, can you imagine the people watching this? Like, I even think about David's brothers standing up on a hill, watching all of these events unfold. Like, Lord, protect my brother. Keep him safe out there. And it's like, oh, dude, did you just see what just happened? Like, is that David? Is that our little brother out there? And then you see the sword come out. And you're just like, what is going on? I'm going to remove his skull from his shoulders and just, like, teach you to defy the armies of the living God. Teach you to say bad things about my God. And then it clicked with everybody, I think. Especially the Philistines. They're like, Goliath's dead. The deal was we have to serve them if Goliath dies. This unimaginable outcome. And David's just standing there, sword in hand. I don't know if he grabbed Goliath's head by the hair or something, but he's just like, he's got this head in his hand. He's like, what now? And the Philistines are like, see ya. Adios. We're leaving. Sayonara. And they flee. They start running. Go to verses 57 and 58. It says, and as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistines, so they pursued after them and they killed a lot of the Philistines. Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said unto him, whose son art thou? Or art thou, thou young man? And David answered, I am the son of thy servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite. Now, Saul knows who he is. But I think as Saul sees the character of David, as he sees the veracity of David, he's just like, whose son are you? Like, where did you come from? Who is this guy? And David just like, well, I'm the son of Jesse, your servant. I came and I was here and I just defended God. That's all I was here for. Because David didn't come to seek after riches. He didn't show up with a cart full of food for his brothers with the secret hope of like, man, I hope I get some action in the battle today. I hope I get to defeat a few guys today and throw a sword around a little bit today. He didn't come planning for any of that. But notice, as soon as he heard the Philistines standing out there defying God, that was it. That was the nail in the coffin for Goliath. He said, this isn't going to happen any longer. I'm not going to listen to somebody who's going to talk badly about my God. What a testament to how he allowed God to work in his life. And this is, I think about this. When I need encouragement, I go back to this and I look at the things that he wrote in the times that he was encouraged. What did he have to go back and be encouraged? I think about these people that had phenomenal walks with God, and they didn't even have this to be encouraged to help them on their daily walk. And I'm like, what faith did they have? Absolutely amazing. Do you think that we could have a little bit more faith in God this week? Do you think we could have a little bit more faith in God today? Because a little boy went out against a giant because God's got my back. God's going to take care of me. Don't forget who it is that we're serving. Don't forget who it is that we're representing. He has got this thing figured out, and we can trust him, and we can have faith in him.